I've done a lot of interviews kind of on that early 80s Hollywood period, but in 81, the scene hadn't really developed yet, right? It was more punk rock when you arrived, or new wave, maybe?
The licorice pizza I worked at was at Clark and Sunset, like catty corner from the Whiskey A Go-Go. So it was very punk rock at that time. Like it was Circle Jerks and God, what was Henry Rollins' band? It was
Black Flag.
Yeah, Black Flag were kind of like the Kings. And then, that year we had done in-store with the Go-Go's, and there was like a line down the block, and Oingo Boingo was huge, Yeah, it was pretty punk rock.
And at this point, Kevin Dubro's there with his band, but Randy has left, correct, at this point? Do you remember?
Yeah. I wasn't like a big Quiet Riot fan, so I can't really give you a ton of trivia there.
Okay.
I did go to a Quiet Riot party where they were laying out lines of cocaine that were like very long and very fat. So, but I wasn't really a fan of that music. So
that was after they made it?
Yeah.
And so, are you aware of I'm trying to think. I think Motley Crue has formed. Was he out of London by this point? Was Nikki out of London?
Yeah, I actually came to LA in, I guess that would have been 80, like the year before when Nikki was in London. And I saw him play at the Starwood, but I didn't meet him until he was in Motley Crue. And that would have been 81. He was living on Clark Street. And I kept seeing him and Tommy and Vince like in their stiletto heels and outfits walking on the Sunset Strip. And I was very curious about it because, it was very punk rock at the time.
And did you remember him? Like, were you like, that's the guy from London?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What was your impression of London?
I don't remember being knocked out by the music, but I did like the show, and I particularly liked Nikki. I didn't really talk to him. I think I may have said hello in passing or something, but I didn't meet him really until I moved to Hollywood.
Now, I know London just kind of hung out in LA forever and never really got off the ground. But did you ever kind of cross paths with them being there, and did you ever think of managing them?
Sure. No, but I was a cocktail waitress at Gazari's, and they played there a lot. And I don't know, Nadir is a good frontman. I don't know that he's like a great writer. I don't know. I don't like to say negative stuff about people. So. But no, it did not occur to me to manage them. And I was still like getting my feet wet in Hollywood and trying to figure it out for myself. Being from Indiana, at least at that time and point, I don't think this is true anymore, but people from Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I'm from, were pretty righteous and told the truth. And if they said something, they did it, which is not what happens in Hollywood. So I got taken advantage of quite a bit when I first got here. And it took me a while, a couple of years, to like really figure out that when people said stuff, it wasn't necessarily true.
Yeah, that's what I wonder with, it seemed like kind of a, I would think, especially in the 80s in the record business, a very male-dominated field. But what were some of the challenges you faced?
Well, like I said, I got taken advantage of.
How so? Like what's something that you remember?
Like, people say, oh, I'll meet you here, and then they would never show up, or I don't know. I lived with this crazy roadie that worked with Led Zeppelin, and he was kind of into some dark occult stuff. I didn't last there very long. But when he was like skinning black cats and hanging them on the wall, it was a little scary for an Indiana girl. Then I moved in with a guy who worked for Noel Monk, and he was managing Van Halen at the time. And that's kind of where I really began to see what it really looked like to work in the music industry. And it was a good experience. So
And you
But
said
there was like a lot of cocaine going on and stuff around me. I was a pretty impressionable kid. I tried everything. And, I was a wake and bake pot smoker in my early days. I'm clean and sober now, 21 years, but I was very influenced by my peer group. Let's go with that. My friend Iris Berry likes to say, if you remember the 80s, you weren't really there.